Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. How are you all today? How you doing, Chewy?
I was doing fine until you showed me that thing just before we went to air, and now it's completely just thrown me off.
What are you talking about?
Day is ruined. My night is probably going to be haunted.
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Oh, you know you want to show everybody. It's disgusting. Disgusting.
So
do you
I
want to
have
explain it, or should we just leave it hang in there?
every night before actually anytime I go on this thing, I always have a bit of a brush.
And I looked at best.
I looked at my brush tonight. You see there's a few wispy hairs in there. And it was kind of full. So I emptied it.
What happened, Pat? What happened?
So I emptied it.
Oh, I am so deeply unhappy.
And I was thinking, if anyone out there needs a merkin, I can.
No one needs a merkin.
We can do a giveaway.
That's going to be up on our Patreon on a new tier. It's the Merkin Bandit tier. It's 50 cents a month. And you get all of Pat's discarded hairbrush hair.
Yeah, there you go. I like to please. All right, man, you had a good day? How's everybody out there?
Not too bad. In the world of cell phones, a reasonably interesting day.
Yeah, of course. iPhone 14?
New iPhone. And despite having spent the last 3 weeks telling people that it's going to be announced on the Thursday, and then we'll start taking pre-orders on the Saturday, and then it's out 2 weeks from there, and then we don't know anything else. Today has just been answering the phones and telling people that we don't have it yet. And no, I can't put your name on the pre-order list because it doesn't start until Saturday. So yeah, it's been good.
Apple have a pretty good business model, don't they? They're like,
they definitely know what they're doing. Look,
we're going to make it. You're going to buy it, and we're going to be considered the best.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I am an Android guy. I've had Samsung since my first smartphone, but I'm certainly not one of those people that goes, Samsung's the best, and iPhone's just trashy garbage. They wouldn't be as popular as they are if they made garbage.
Well, I think because Apple's had this clever thing about having a closed system and using their own iOS, their own operating system, is that they may not, like, obviously they don't dominate the marketplace when you add up all the Androids together. No. All the Androids sell more than all the iPhones, but because the iPhones outsell any individual, so whether it be Samsung or Alcatel or Sony, whatever they are, they end up being the biggest. And that's always been the thing that I have understood about Apple as well, is that Apple products, and I'm on the Apple ecosystem, is apps are designed for the iOS, which means they run better on iOS. When people design for Android, they're designing it for a bigger platform so it can play on different phones and different. It's like designing something in a computer for Windows. You might be playing it in I don't know what kind of computer I've got, but there's so many different brands, so they're not quite tailored as much as the products that are made for Apple, because you're only tailored for one manufacturer, which means everything seems to run a bit better on Apple in general. I'm only on the Apple ecosystem because that was the first smartphone I got, and that's all I've ever really had. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's no reason to shift unless you're curious or you're pissed off. But
I've got a Samsung as well, but I don't really understand it because I've been on the Apple ecosystem since, I guess, my first iPhone.
What I like is that it enables Apple to do something that is absolutely crazy and unheard of with literally any other cell phone manufacturer, that they can have a keynote release like they did this morning and go, Apple's biggest, longest life battery ever. Or actually, I don't think they even said biggest. They just said longer life. Now, if you go and you try and find out how big that battery is, what its capacity is, you literally can't find it. It's not mentioned anywhere. Wow. Because they're only talking about how long it needs between charges. They won't give you the actual specifications. And the main reason is because it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Because you're not making a direct comparison with, say, Samsung's latest. They generally run with a bigger battery because they have to.
But it also doesn't matter because most people charge their phone kind of once a day. Like my phone here, battery's like 98% or something, and in theory I could charge it, every day and a half, but that gets really problematic because then it's the middle of the next day, like, oh fuck, I'm running out of battery, so you have to plug it in when you're doing other things. So I just charge it each night, and it doesn't matter that it can technically last through till lunchtime the next day. I don't leave it that long because you just get into a cycle. It's a little bit like if you had a electric car that could drive 10,000 miles on any one charge, but you're doing 10 Ks, a day, or 50 Ks a day. It's getting to a point where you only need to charge something as you're using it, as opposed to what it can do.
But this used to be a deal breaker. When we moved into smartphones and people went, well, I charge my cell phone once a week and that's my expectation.
Yeah.
And that shifted now.
It has very much so shifted, and I think we'll see that shortly with cars as well. Because I mean, like you and I have had this conversation before about electric vehicles. Here in Dunedin, I still kind of think, well, Dunedin Queenstown or Dunedin Christchurch, because at the moment the setup for driving electric vehicles, EVs, in the bottom part of the South Island is shit house. So really, you need to be able to get to Queenstown in one hit, which is about 350 Ks. So those cars that say we can do 350 Ks, you're like, well, that's on a track in a not real world application.
I think you'll be surprised, actually. There's charging stations, Mosgiel, Lawrence, Cromwell. So it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, all right. Hey, we've got a lot tonight on the show, so we probably should rip into it because we've got like 4 or 5 things to talk about. A couple of them are quite small things to talk about. The first thing's quite a small thing to talk about, and it's really just an acknowledgement for a bit of sadness from today, because I used to work with Willie Lose. When I worked at News Talk ZB, he worked at Radio Sport, and so we were workmates. I don't think I ever did anything social with Willie, but knew him well enough to feel a bit sad today to hear about the passing of 55-year-old Willie Lose.
That's real young, eh?
Super young, man. Not good.
Behind every great man is obviously a greater woman, so to the wives, the mothers, the partners that have endured the season with them, we say thank you for your patience and your understanding.
And, John, let's look back firstly at that match, wonderful match last weekend against France. What pleased you the most?
Yeah, so sad day, and there's a couple of them because Inga's gone as well, and I'm just, I haven't done like the numbers or the research today, so I don't want to get too heavily into the health of the Pacific Island nation, but it does seem, when you hear about someone of high profile who's dying earlier, like a former rugby player, it does seem to be a Pacific Islander, and I'm just like, what is this saying about the health of the nation and the health of the community? And 55 is ridiculous. All we've heard about is a medical incident or episode or whatever in South Africa, and I think about all the people around him, his family first and foremost, obviously, but even to up and including the Keith Quinns of the world who worked for him for quite a long time on I don't know what the name of it is, but it is the live broadcast on the rugby channel of the secondary school rugby. They were doing that on Sky Sports. So yeah, Willie's amazing. He got shat on a little bit by News Talk ZB and sort of a little bit underhand the way they moved him on. A great shock to him, but he went on and he kept doing his stuff, and he a wonderful man who I only knew through work, and it's really sad news today to hear. It's funny, I've had a bit of a sad day, Chewy, because I'm sure you've seen it going around. Have you seen this tribute concert for Taylor Hawkins at Wembley Stadium?
Oh, yeah. No,
6-hour concert, right?
Absolutely, and packed with moments too.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I'm straight. I love Foo Fighters. And I'm struggling a little bit to listen to their music at the moment because I actually get a bit emotional about it. It's like, and then if you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to play it because we will definitely get kicked off YouTube for, the one area that's like the mafia is if you use copyrighted music. That seems to be the one area. Taylor Hawkins' son played my hero. So that
was legitimately amazing.
Yeah, 16-year-old son. So I don't know. It's a strange thing. He was in his 50s as well. I mean, his is obviously to do with drugs and alcohol, but different. But yeah, it was a couple of moments that I kind of go, oh shit. I mean, like, I'm surprised Dave Grohl can still do it. After Kurt Cobain. Dave Grohl disappeared off the scene for a while, came back to do his own stuff. That's how Foo Fighters started. If you haven't seen it yet, Back and Forth is this documentary. It's amazing about them. And now, and Taylor was his best friend, his best mate, right? And it's sad, man. It's sad, and what's sad about Willie, it's sad times.
What I appreciate about Taylor Hawkins, I don't know if you're familiar with his own band. It has one of the best names. Taylor Hawkins and the Coattail Riders.
Right.
And I think that's the most self-aware band name I've ever come across. But yeah, well worth a listen.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. We're done with that. There's a couple of little things we want to talk about as well. But I think we should start talking about, actually, you know what? Let's start talking about, because I always say we walk and chew gum here, and whilst we unashamedly push ourselves from the left, when something's worth investigating or criticizing for the left, we want to do it. And I was hearing the last 24 hours conversations around the Northland COVID situation. And so today I actually sat down and went, you know what, if Labor's had a big balls up here and they need to be called out, we should go and have a look for it. I spent probably a half hour to an hour looking around and reading various articles, and sort of every right-wing commentator and publisher was like, this government, the worst in the world, and and I was kind of like, well, you're not giving me very much. I found Tova O'Brien's commentary this morning to be really well balanced and really interesting to have a look at what the actual situation with why the Labour Party has had a bit of a black eye for the situation in Northland. Now, if you're not sure what's going on, see, what's unclear, Chewy, is there was reasons given out for why Northland went into a lockdown. Yeah? Those reasons have come out that they were not accurate. But what hasn't quite come out yet was a lockdown still warranted? That's the only bit I'm unclear on. So there was a lockdown that happened. There were some reasons given that were inaccurate. It is an embarrassment to the Ministry of Health and to the Labour government of the time. But I haven't been able to read or find anywhere someone unequivocally say this lockdown was unnecessary. So that's what I'm unclear on. If you've got links out there, if you know what's going on, then stick them in the chat and I'll bring them up. But I think what we'll do, because I think Tova really nailed it this morning, she was talking about the government's masterclass on how to cover your ass. Because there's no question that this is an embarrassment to the government. And there's no question that, well, I mean, I'm fine saying that they should apologize for the balls up, right? Yep. It seems that I remember working in radio and making an error on air. And my boss told me about this various kinds of business system. I don't know what it's called, but there's a particular philosophy in business that you never apologize. Because if you apologize, you admit fault. If you admit fault, then the other person has the right to seek recompense. And I think about times when like politicians and political people don't apologize for anything ever. And I go, I wonder if they're actively following that philosophy of if they admit fault, if they apologize, then the other side, be it the opposition or if it's the opposition doing it, be it the government, have got a green light to go hammer and tong at them. I kind of really disagree with that. I think if you fuck up, you say, shit, sorry, that was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. We've learned from it. We won't do it again. We've put things in place. Now, I really think that's a better philosophy, even including for the government. But Tova's piece this morning, we'll play some of it. We might even play all of it because it's only 3 minutes, was talking about the masterclass on how to cover your ass, government. So before we play it, do you want to add anything to that thing yet, Cho, before we fire it off?
We'll see if she brings it up. But my understanding is this is an issue of kind of two halves. You've got basically how the government or the machine of government handled this, how it happened in the first place, and what they decided to do, and then also what I guess the other parties decided to do around that as well, which kind of just made it worse. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's have a listen to what Tova said this morning, and then we'll go from there.
The Tova Podcast.
With Generate, the KiwiSaver specialists, people you can actually talk to.
Yesterday, the government gave us a masterful masterclass in ass covering after revelations in the Herald that the Northland lockdown wasn't the result of two women obtaining border travel exemptions by deception, as Minister Chris Hipkins had led us to believe at the time.
My understanding at this point, and I want to be clear that this is not yet verified, is that the person obtained a document by providing false information in order to get the document to travel across the border.
Couple of things wrong with that sentence. First, turns out it was an official who made the mistake, not the woman. She did not use false information to get the exemption. Wrong. Secondly,
and I want to be clear that this is not yet verified.
Why on earth are you putting out information that is not yet verified? As soon as a representative of the government makes an assertion, even with all the caveats in the world, it is out there.
I'm 50-50 on this. Right?
Yeah,
I think that a lot of times in the media, whether it be a political figure or a commentator or an official, I think it's okay to go, this is not yet verified. This is what we see so far. I think that's generally okay. I'm not saying, I guess I'm 50-50, right? I'm not saying Tova's in the complete, I don't disagree with her completely, but I can see how, especially within that moment of COVID, people are screaming out for answers. You can go, look, we don't really know yet, but this is what we think we're seeing, which I think is okay. So
I think also a minister's only as good as the information that he's been given. So, I mean, for Hipkins to stand up there at the moment and go, well, this is what I've been told, and that they're making a decision based on what turned out to be false information. But the flip side of that is you get it wrong the other way, and you have an outbreak that you could have potentially stopped.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right, we'll go on.
As part of the narrative, cue the masterclass at the press conference held yesterday. First lesson, get the Prime Minister the hell away from this mess. Don't tarnish Brand Ardern with the icky business of bad governance. So when the first question went to the PM asking if there would be an apology for the bungle, she was out of there.
I'm going to hand over to Minister Hipkins.
Second lesson, gloss over.
I don't want to get into all of the ins and outs of that at the time. We were making decisions based on the information that we had available.
Well, so here's the other thing, yeah. If that's the metric we're going to use, that means we then, as media, have to be comfortable with a government agency giving us no information until they 100% know.
Yeah.
So, like, the flip side to that is, and I'm not picking on Tova, but would the person in Tova's seat be okay with the government saying, we're not going to release anything until we're 100% clear? Because that would actually be the flip side of the same coin, and I don't think the media would be okay with that either.
No, it's certainly not in the middle of a potential outbreak, where it's like, no, we need to know now. Like, we had media that were querying a 2-hour gap between we're going to have a press conference. The press conference hasn't happened yet, but what are we doing? Are we locking down or not? Like, Are we seeing this through the lens of the moment, or in 2020 hindsight with less at stake is my worry there.
So we'll keep going.
Want to get into all the ins and outs, guys. Boring, far too complicated. Don't worry about it. Third lesson, excuses, 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 and say it with confidence.
I was very, very clear in all of my comments at the time. Much of the information that we had was not fully confirmed.
To my earlier point, that was a major failing in itself. You don't put out half-cooked, unconfirmed information, especially when the implications were so enormous. A total regional lockdown. Fourth lesson, never admit fault. Every time the reporters asked Hipkins if he'd apologise, he completely ignored the question.
That was our approach at that time. It was the right approach at that time.
Lesson 5.
I do wonder about the apology. I wonder, like, for example, for a senior minister or for a leader, like, for example, you ask Mr. Luxon, should you apologise for the actions of Sam Uffindale? Well, no, it's not Luxon's issue. But could you say, look, on behalf of the National Party, I think we as a party, some things will slip through. I mean, could Hipkins go, well, he wouldn't say it like this. He'd need to be more professional. But to kind of go, well, I don't need to apologise. I did nothing wrong. But actually, the system that Labor had set up broke down in this instance. So if people need to hear an apology, this one got through our system, the government system, and if you put out for it, I apologize about that. So there can be, if the reporters are going, you should apologize, you personally, I get you didn't do that, but you could also, there's also a way you could do it and acknowledge that there was a balls up. There was a balls up by the government.
Yeah, I think these women are probably due some sort of apology, but I don't think reporters like Tova are really asking that for the benefit of the slighted party. They're going for it for the headline.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, it's there was an error and a mistake, and it apparently, I mean, way it's being told by Tova now, apparently maybe caused a lockdown that maybe wasn't necessary. That's unclear yet, but I think the government. So if you admit the mistake, is that enough? Or do you need to have an apology as well? And who are you apologizing to? The media, the people of Northland, the women that were accused by some of potentially being sex workers, although I know that Winston Peters made that claim. There was other articles I read today, and he then backed away from it. And a gang member, I don't have his name in front of me, now basically does want an apology for being roped into sex workers that weren't sex workers. So if any individuals made those specific claims with no evidence, they should apologize. Of course they should. And if it's the Prime Minister, of course she should. How you track that and find out who it is, I don't know. Let's finish off this bit with Tova.
Undermine the reporting.
It was. There's nothing new in the report as I've read it today.
Which is also lesson 6, gaslight. Make the reporters think there's nothing newsworthy or new in any of this.
And we did make it clear at the time that there had been a clerical error in there as well.
Interesting. I asked Hipkins' office to direct me to his comments from the time, making it clear there was a clerical error. They sent me this single interview from RNZ.
There was a degree of error in the approval in the first place.
But he never once clarifies that the woman didn't provide false information. In fact, he lets it be said again, the alternative fact that he had initially provided. He doesn't correct it, and by doing so, he reinforces it.
It seems too easy to fake your exemption papers, doesn't it?
Well, certainly there have been some issues with the 2 particular women who travelled up into Northland.
And this isn't the only time the government used...
Not that I'm trying to be fair on Labor. We don't know the time frame there. We don't know if the Kim Hill interview was before the other one from RNZ, or the RNZ one was before the Kim Hill, both RNZ, because if it was Kim Hill on day 4 and the other RNZ one on day 14, then that makes sense. If it was the RNZ interview on day 4 or whatever day and the Kim Hill one on day 14, then it doesn't make sense. And as I said, because we walk and chew gum and we're fair, I said last night that I think that the leader of the opposition is spreading disinformation. It's my honest held belief. In this instance, I don't know, because it doesn't seem clear to me. If we knew that timeline, like when was Kim Hill, when was the other RNZ, then I think we could make that claim. But certainly I think we can say potentially there's a potential for misinformation here from the Labour Party. And if that's the case, there does need to be, should we use Mr. Luxon's favourite word? If we say repercussions, is that a better way of saying it? Somehow.
We're going to definitely come up with a new word. Okay. Yeah, look, I found that interesting. That is the first and only time that I've heard that they believe that there was a clerical error during that whole thing, and it's just interesting that it's just out of one interview. So yeah, I don't think Hipkins can really hang his hat on the fact going, oh well, we did mention that there was an element of clerical error. You certainly didn't mention that as much as all the other information that came out of it. Yeah. I'm of the mind that if you think there's a potential for an outbreak, you lock down, you sort down everything else later. So
all right, let's wrap this up. There's about 20 seconds to go.
Use half-baked false information during COVID to justify its botch-ups. Remember the KFC worker the Prime Minister publicly criticised for not isolating, who turned out not to have been given any official advice to isolate? Or what about the 2 Wellington women who were given bereavement leave? Ashley Bloomfield said categorically they hadn't met with anyone else on their trip. He stated it as fact. Turns out they had. Not good enough. Putting false or uncertain information out into the public like this erodes trust in the government. It's either sloppy or willfully dishonest. Neither are attributes we want from our government.
Yep. No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But I will also say, Tova and others have cited 3 examples out of 2.5 years and hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Yeah. So, and I've been saying from day one, let's be honest, I've been saying from day one that the country in general, and I talk about my household as well, has had a mixture of good management and good luck to go through what we've gone through, and I think that the good luck part of it for the country, like when the first lockdown finished and then the second lockdown, I think was August of that year, started to come in, we then found out, for example, that the people at the border workers hadn't been fully vaccinated when the vaccines were available. And so that was just good luck that it didn't go through those people. I don't know. I think on the balance of probability, is that the right one? Or the sum of all parts, or the looking at the overall picture? Yeah, there's been some things falling through the gaps. But I don't know. I guess in general, it's been a net positive response with some balls up. But this is a balls up, and we got to be fair. And if we're going to call National on their balls ups, then we got to call Labor. And this is a balls up. These are bad optics, and I don't believe that pushing it away, pushing it aside, and saying nothing to see here is a correct response by Labor.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. But yeah, I'm just worried that with 2020 hindsight, we're going to have all of this thing, because I do think the last couple of years we need to go through with a fine-tooth comb, because there's so many learning lessons out of our response, what we did well, what we didn't do so well, what if this happens again, all of that sort of thing. We're gonna find things that don't look great, but we have to look at them based on the environment that those decisions were made, the pressures that they were made, how many people were trying to put through paperwork to go to a particular area during a lockdown. We know that there were bad actors trying to game the system as well, and they had to walk that line between letting people go to really important things or working out whether someone just wanted to go to, say, Wanaka for the weekend. It's interesting. It's hard.
Yeah. Stephen says there's no shame in apologizing. Methinks shows humility, integrity. Methinks and greed. David says Northland was still one of the lowest vaccinated areas at the time. Okay, so that might have contributed to it. So it's, what I always say about insurance. Insurance is the biggest waste of money until you need it. Then it's the best money you've ever spent. So maybe that's, if you think about it like that, they actually didn't. I don't know the answer to this yet, but let's just say they didn't need to lock down, but they played the insurance card and they didn't need it. If they had have needed it, it would have been the best decision they made. And because they didn't need it, Labor has egg on their face, and they're having to do this mea culpa on some level.
I remember seeing a thing right at the start of this whole pandemic, and it has stayed in the forefront of my mind right from the get-go. It's like, if you do something in a pandemic, if you do it right, it'll look like a massive overreaction because nothing happens. If you get it wrong, you have an outbreak. So yeah. I'm reminded of the protest a couple of weeks ago in Wellington. There were, like, the one that Destiny Church basically held. I was listening to a reporter, I think on News Hub, who said that she was there for the January-February protest, and she said with the huge number of police that were there for that Tuesday protest a few weeks ago, it felt like overkill. But she also kind of went, but if they need it, it'll be the exactly right thing they did. Now, it turned out to be overkill, being that set up, but because they didn't know the insurance policy they had was more police, more bollards, more safety, didn't need it, few. But if it was fewer police, fewer bollards, less safety, and it had have turned into another thing, the whole country would be going, why the fuck wasn't there more police? So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, a little bit. Absolutely.
So not to give them an excuse. I think what they need to do now is the apology tour and then get on with life. Weaving House says, we did an incredible job, nimble in building a plane while flying it. Wow. Center the most vulnerable with the information to hand. End. Fair enough. All right. We're going to keep trucking tonight because we've got a few things to get through, because I don't think I've ever done this before. But in the title of tonight's podcast, it says Sarah Palin is a fucking moron. I don't think I've ever quite been that direct in the title of a show, but let's have a look why I'm saying that. So this is Sarah Palin talking to soon-to-be prisoned Steve Bannon on his podcast, yeah? And this is her talking about the voting system in Alaska. Let's have a listen to her delightfully quaint words.
Well, you called it, Steve, when you explained what this newfangled cockamamie system called ranked choice voting is all about, when it doesn't matter if you perhaps are the most popular or most qualified candidate.
Remember that. It doesn't matter if you're the most popular. Just remember that point. Almost qualified.
No, you can get a whole lot of votes, Steve, but if you don't get enough second or third rankings from voters who choose another candidate, then you're eliminated, or then you get second place and you don't win. And it's complicated. You explained it best.
So she's saying you can be the most popular and still end up coming second. Just remember that very clearly, because what she's implying is I am the most popular and I came. That's what she's implying. Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second.
President Trump explained it very well in a rally that he had up here.
Trump's never explained anything very well.
He's never explained anything in his whole life.
Trump couldn't explain what a circle is well. I wouldn't trust Trump to sit the correct way on a toilet seat. He could never explain anything well.
Warning Alaskans that this newfangled experiment with ranked choice voting will split votes. It will allow liberals to skip on in, which is exactly what's happened thus far. And it's a very, very potentially fraught with fraud even system.
So potential.
The F word.
No, but she says potentially. She didn't quite go so far to say it is fraud.
She's gonna.
But remember what she said. Most popular can end up coming second. No. So guess what Pat has done? Gone and got the voting numbers for the Alaskan election that's just happened, including the first and second round voting. Shall we have a look at it? Would you be surprised to know that in the first round of voting, the eventual winner got 75,799 votes, well ahead of Sarah Palin. So the most popular person in the first round was Mary Peltola, not Sarah Palin. She got 75,799 votes, or 40% of the vote. Sarah Palin got 58,000 votes. So that's a little less than 20,000 votes fewer. And then the third place guy got 53,000. So he was eliminated. And then they went to the second round of votes. So if it was first past the post, Mary wins. Done. Over. No problems.
That's the old school, not newfangled, not confusing.
Not newfangled.
She just got more votes and won.
The same person won by about 17,000 votes, or by about 9%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Second round comes up, and guess what happens? From the second round, Sarah Palin gets an additional 27,000 votes, and Mary Peltola gets an additional 15,000 votes. So what that means is actually this new fandangled way of voting actually helped Sarah Palin almost win more than it helped the person who eventually won. Because as you can see at the end, there is only a 5,000 vote difference, 91,000 to 86,000, and only about a 3% difference. So this fucking moron, Sarah Palin, is complaining about a system where she lost in the first round that helped her in the second round almost take the victory away from the person who was leading in the first round. So look, I know what you're all going to say. She's not a moron. She knows, she understands that she's just playing the game. I don't care. Right?
No, I'm happy with your first draft of this. she's a moron. Look, we get it. Like, this is their voting system there, if I'm correct, is reasonably similar to single transferable vote that we use.
Yeah, I think so.
Body here
you basically rank them, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a similar thing here in Dunedin with our mayoral race last time. Obviously, one of the city councillors got more votes in the first round than our eventual mayor did. The problem was that all of those votes, they either voted for their guy and nobody else, but for the eventual winner, more people ranked him second than anybody else. So he picked up more votes that way.
Yeah.
So with what we're seeing there in Alaska, that third person that got eliminated, more people would have voted for Sarah Palin in the second pass, but enough of them went. Yeah. So it's not hard to understand. It's just you have less chance of your vote being wasted in that particular system.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's new, it's different. Therefore, we can cast doubt on it, and we can say that it might be dangerous and confusing for people because all my voters are stupid, and that's what they've said. And then I'm going to ignore the fact that I hugely benefited from that system.
And Rob's got the exact point. If that second round of voting had have got her over the mark, then it would have been God's will and this great democracy we live in, and the new way of doing things is the best way. Gosh darn. So you're exactly right, Rob. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll just leave it there with Sarah Palin as a fucking moron. I think we're done with that.
Every time we talk about Sarah Palin, I encourage everybody out there listening to us to go and watch Iron Sky. You familiar with that movie, Pat?
Is that the one where the the film of her run with the Woody Harrelson movie?
No, it's a hilarious piss take that got I think it was a Kickstarter. It's a Finnish movie about how Nazis live on the moon, and they have a spectacular Sarah Palin impersonator playing the president of the United States, trying to collaborate with the moon Nazis to win the next election. It is phenomenal. It is a crime that it never won an Oscar, and everybody should go and watch it because it's glorious.
Before we move into the next part of our story, we're not showing it. I was about to flick to a screen, would have given away a whole bunch of people's details, which I don't want to do. So give me a second while I just talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. I want to remind you as well, and you can see it if you're watching along the bottom of the screen, that we have started up our Patreon this week, and we're getting a slow and steady trickle of people coming through who are joining up. Thank you very much for joining up. 10 people so far. 10 people in 2 days. That's lovely. That's what we're trying to do, helping us keep the lights on and just doing a few things here and there. There are 6 levels that you can actually join up to. If you want to find out more about it, if you want to be on board, want to be part of the team, then you need to visit patreon.com, big hairy news, as it says scrolling along the bottom of the screen right now. Okay. Let us talk about Kiwifarms. What is Kiwifarms, I hear you say? Numerous people have been talking about Kiwifarms. There's been quite big news going around the Twitterverse in the last 2 or 3 days. So I didn't know too much about what Kiwifarms was until the news started going, and I see a lot of people that I know and like and respect saying that there's this fantastic thing gone off the internet called Kiwifarm. So what is it? So we're going to do 2 things. The first thing is have a look at the spin-off article, which is basically asking the same question why we're asking, and then we're going to go to CNN and have a bit of a report on what it actually is. So the forum, so Kiwifarms is a forum which evolved out of the notorious message boards 4chan and 8chan, is known for being, quote, a community of stalkers, end quote. It initially was created to harass an anime artist by documenting her every movement and transaction, calling her house and threatening her parents, and ridiculing her for being autistic and trans. Since its beginnings, more than a decade ago, Kiwifarms has become a community focused on harassing and doxing online individuals perceived as deviant, especially transgender people and people with mental illness. You know, all those people who don't have any problems in society at all. While members of the forum have different ideologies, they're not all universally alt-right. They are all interested in gossiping and posting personal information of the figures they fixate on. Here is a bit of a story from CNN with the, I guess, main protagonist, who was one of the main people responsible for getting Kiwifarms taken down off the internet. I'm going to just pretty much play this. It's 3 minutes or so you can get a bit of a sense as to what this place did to people's lives. So let's have a listen to the person who kind of she's a popular Twitch streamer who kind of got behind it, who pushed to have it taken down. Her story. We'll have a listen to this.
I went out into the hallway. They told me to put my hands up. Honestly, in that moment, I thought I was going to die. I screamed like as soon as I saw the gun.
Clara Sorrenti recounts how online trolls called in a fake emergency, sending armed police to her home in Canada, a tactic known as swatting. Over the past month, she's been targeted, harassed, and stalked around the globe.
I'm so exhausted of having to constantly run.
Sorrenti is a trans activist and streamer on Twitch, a platform hugely popular among video gamers.
Hello.
Earlier this year, when Sorrenti began using the platform to talk about trans rights, she caught the attention of Kiwifarms, a notorious online forum that has been used to organize transphobic harassment campaigns.
The first thing that they did was find the obituary for my dead father and use it to find his memorialized Facebook page. They were able to find a picture of my dad on the front porch of my childhood home, and from that, use Google Maps and figure out where that was located.
After Sorrenti's home in Ontario was swatted, she moved to a nearby hotel, but her harassers tracked her down there, remarkably using this photo of her cat on her hotel bed.
Now, I want to talk about internet security a little bit as well. And I have something to reveal about my stalker side. Nothing like this, but just to let people know who share a lot of their own personal information on the internet, how easy it is to expose yourself.
They were able to cross-reference what they saw on the bed sheets with every other hotel in the city until they found out that the specific bed sheets only had a pattern in this one hotel that I was staying at.
Eventually, she says her Uber account was hacked, allowing the online bullies to track her location. It was then she decided to leave Canada, coming here to Belfast in Northern Ireland to stay with her friend.
And I thought that if I got far away and went to a different continent, they wouldn't be able to do the same thing.
So there's that little body of water called the Atlantic Sea between where she's come from and where she is. So she thought, phew, I'm safe. Well,
and then it turned out I was wrong.
Somehow, her harassers tracked her down in Belfast. One of them even came to the apartment building she is staying at, taking this chilling photo full of trans slurs and posted it online.
Clara was in the middle of a stream on Twitch, and in the middle of it, we find out that on the website 4chan, somebody had posted a picture taken from right around here.
People have been trying to get this site offline for nearly a decade.
Sorrenti decided to take the trolls on, launching a campaign to get Kiwifarms taken off the internet.
I know that there's always a threat against me as long as I'm standing up for this. The alternative would have been the site keeps going. And not only me, but the countless other victims of this site who get harassed relentlessly every single day would have to continue through that nightmare.
Sorrenti called for Cloudflare, a major US internet company, to stop providing cybersecurity services to Kiwifarms that allowed the site to stay online. Cloudflare initially said no, but then reversed track over the weekend, citing imminent threats to human life. Sorrenti knows getting Kiwifarms taken offline won't make all her trolls and harassers go away. What is your message?
So we should probably just have a look at that for people
What
who
is
for people who are listening. So for people who are listening, there is a tweet that's on the screen, and I won't say the words, even though we don't necessarily have broadcasting standards here, but it likely says "F this dumb B." I probably think it might be longer than that, and then it says, "I'm planning to fly to Ireland. Is Keffels," I'm not sure if that's entirely how you pronounce it, still there? Right. I seriously want to shoot that. There's another blanked out. And then something about bombs around the place they're staying because it's blocked out by the CNN Chiron. So that's being put out into the internet for those of you who are listening who can't see the screen that we're looking at right now.
All her trolls and harassers go away. What is your message to the people who are doing this to you?
I don't blame them, really, because
really,
yeah, they got roped into a hate group. And once you get deep enough inside one of these things, it's really hard to get out. I want to show them more compassion than they've ever shown me.
There you go. Now,
that is
the first time, I think the first time you've seen it, Chewy. So I'll give you the floor now, sir. And then I want to share a little bit about, and I'm really sharing this. This is going to be a bit embarrassing for me because people might think that I'm a bit of a weirdo once I share this. But I actually want to do it in a way to encourage people how easy people are to track down if you're not uber careful. But before I do that, Chewy, do you want to add anything to that particular conversation?
Yeah, look, I mentioned it in the chat as the video was playing. Like this website and its host have been responsible for some of the worst shit that's on the internet at the moment. They host white supremacist stuff. The local neo-Nazi group Action Zealandia, their hosting was down, so their website's down at the moment because of this.
Plain should see that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, there's some very big, bad, nasty, ugly, fucking terrible stuff that's gone down from that. But the thing that I keep coming back to is that they use Kiwifarms as a name, and that just offends me. Like, it has nothing to do with
because we're getting dragged into it. You mean?
Yeah, it's isn't that a weird reaction? Like, it's way down. Like, if you had a list of all the bad shit that this website, these forums are responsible for, right at the bottom of the list, right, on an addendum, on a post-it note stuck to the end of this fucking huge list of horrible internet shit, they have pissed me off by using Kiwi in the name. It annoys me.
Yeah, because it's not a New Zealand-based thing. That's the thing to be.
No, it's run out of America, and it's just filled with some of the most vile little internet goblins that you can congregate on a website.
That's the definition of appropriation, isn't it?
They've poured bile out onto these people for just sticking their hands up and saying, "Don't be dicks to trans people," maybe. And they've gone, yeah, but alternatively, how about you all kill yourselves?
Yeah.
You know, I hate this aspect of the internet. You know, it's a huge tool, it's a huge power for good, and then you have, like, admittedly, probably a pretty small group just punching way above their weight of just pouring bile out into it. Good riddance. The weeping asshole of the internet.
So let me share with you, and the story that we just heard, she got identified where she was by the sheets on the bed, because there's images everywhere.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, but look, I don't want to sound like a creep here. Some people might think I sound like a creep, but I have this other hat that I wear. It's one of those ones, where I do a long form podcast and I talk to, you know, famous people and academics and actors and musicians and all sorts of people. And during lockdown, it was quite a good time for me to get conversation. So, you know, I had Russell Howard, the comedian from the UK, and I had a whole bunch of people because they were stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks in New Zealand. Now, I was going to say, I'm not proud to say this. I mean, this is what we do when you're trying to find interviews. I saw this photo online of Taika Waititi when he was in lockdown in Auckland.
Yeah.
And in about 10 minutes, I was able to find those panels in a hotel online to find out what hotel he was putting in, and sent them an email requesting they pass the message on. Now, they never did, and I was doing it because I wanted to do a podcast, and it might sound a bit creepy, and I apologize to you if I've just dropped in all your themes all of a sudden, but it's and obviously it was completely innocent as well. There's never going to be anything coming from it, but I just really want to encourage people that, you know, stuff in the background, it can actually really, really, really easily a lot of the time do stuff. I watch Catfish, and I have to tell you what, I'm dumbfounded as to how little people know about the internet, even Google, reverse Google searches. There's a thing called PimEyes. Do you know what PimEyes is, Chewy?
No, I can't say I've heard that.
You should check it out. PimEyes, maybe I should bring it up. PimEyes is an incredible website, and this is the kind of stuff that people need to know about. Hang on, P-I-M, I think that's right. Anyway, PimEyes, is that right? Yeah. So what PimEyes is PimEyes is AI online. And what you do in this one, it's not necessarily a reverse image search. In fact, maybe I'll do it. I'm going to get off this for a second because I'm going to have to go find a photo. Why don't I find a photo of Christopher Luxon? Because, you know, he's our fave. What it does is it uses AI to find who the person is. And not just so it doesn't just use the image like Google reverse. It identifies who it is, and then it tries to find. So I've just put up one image of Christopher Luxon, and now it's using AI, and it's found the exact. But look, it's found other images as well. Look, that's not the same image. So it's found other images of Christopher Luxon. So what reverse images are doing at the moment? It's not just the look. That's a completely different image. So it's actually using AI, and it's figuring out his face, and then it's scouring the internet for his face and finding it in other places and other settings. Like that's not the image.
Are we going to get a visit from Diplomatic Protection?
I'm already because I'm blocked on their Facebook page. So all I want to say is just be careful. Be careful with your images. Be careful what you put online, because it's not as safe as you think it is. The stuff that's hidden within your photos as well, the metadata inside your photos, it's not as safe as you think all the time. So just be careful. And look, Caitlin Spice is actually in the chat at the moment. I spoke to Kate today, and I was seeing if she wanted to come and have a chat with us. We might do that over the weekend, but Caitlin's here in New Zealand with us, and I wanted to share an experience, and Caitlin said we can. She mentioned it in the chat a second ago about, you know, local Kiwis getting their experience of Kiwifarm. So Caitlin said in a tweet, 2 years, 6 months, and 8 days ago, Kiwifarm started a dedicated thread about me. They talked about the suicide of my parents. They scraped my dead name from my father's obituary. They dissected my life to compile a bizarre and deeply obsessive cyber stalking profile on me. Thanks to the work of Keffels and others, I no longer have to deal with the cyber stalking and cyberbullying. I'm extremely grateful that the site is dead. This isn't my first round of this stuff that I've dealt with, but I certainly hope it's not the last. I would like to draw particular attention to the fact that spokesperson for Speaking Up for Women NZ, Katrina Biggs, was a user on Kiwifarms and encouraged other members of SUFWA to check the doxing threads of trans women. I hope this behavior is investigated by the authorities. So although I don't know Caitlin personally, you can see you don't have to go very far before you can interact one-on-one or personally with someone who's been impacted by these I like the word goblin, these kinds of goblins, these vipers, the viper's nest, as you talked about before we started, Chewy.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, infuriating, enraging that these people all seem to have a consistent thing of going after dead relatives, dead friends. There is no bounds. There's no depth too low that they haven't plumbed. And, you know, a lot of the groups that we've been talking about quite consistently are happy to use those tactics as well, especially when it comes to the trans community. It's just so vile. Like, I just can't get over it.
I like it when we have a topic. This is not a good topic, but when we have a topic that then kind of flows so well into the next one, because there is quite a lot of glee at the moment in Dunedin over a particular person.
This
losing...
is a pretty good. That is a sweet segue. Oh
yeah,
God, it's so
saying.
smooth. It's so smooth.
Losing their Twitter status. Now this is Richard Seager. He is a candidate for mayor here in Dunedin. Now, the reason we're talking about him is because of what's been going on in the last story, but also because we are Dunedin based and we talk to these people. So this is Dudley Benson is doing some very, very, very good work here in Dunedin by explaining, you know, we talk about Maya Angelou. When people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. So one of the reasons I like having conversations with people is I like to give them a position to allow them to say who they are. So people often ask me, how do you talk to these kinds of people? And I go, I like to find out who they are and give them enough space for them to tell us who they are. Now, Richard Seager is someone who is running for mayor in Dunedin, and he spent a good amount of time telling us who he is, up to and including the point where he is now being kicked off Twitter. And there is merriment and mirth, I think, would be the fair thing to say, wouldn't it, Chewy? Around Dunedin at the moment.
I had laughed very loud and very long at work, and then had to explain it, which was a weird experience.
Explain it to who? It's like someone didn't know what was going on.
To my workmates about why I was taking such glee out of this guy. From memory, I think this is his 5th Twitter account that has been suspended for no reason.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, those people who get their Twitter accounts suspended, terrible people.
Oh, hey, turnaround is not fair play, sir. God, I got stuck into that region.
Now, I had a conversation with Richard Seager 2 weekends ago. I think you watched it, didn't you, Chewy? You really enjoyed it. Didn't you think it was good, solid content? I believe you did.
Yes, it was. Like for anybody in Dunedin, it's well worth a watch. It was
kind of hilarious that I talked to him a couple of weekends ago. And look, I'm very fair. Some people might think I'm too fair. You know, there's that whole thing. Don't platform these people. But, you know, without sounding arrogant, and I think, Chewy, you'll testify to this, I do have a bit of a special skill set, allowing people to tell us who they are. You know, I think combative interviews and conversations aren't necessary to get the end point that maybe people want, which is, what is this person all about? So I go into an interview quite open, and I don't go in with any set agenda necessarily. I have my research done and my questions set up, But my conversation with Mr. Seager was quite interesting. I got told by a journalist, I won't say which journalist, but by a journalist here in Dunedin because all the journalists in Dunedin know I'm doing these conversations, before we started, that he's a mad anti-vaxxer and his biggest issue is trans women in bathrooms. That's what I got told about him before I started. Now, we didn't talk about trans women in bathrooms because there wasn't fucking time, because he wouldn't stop going on about viruses and the masks. And like, to be honest, we got to a point.
Flu.
We got to a point where we had to actually kind of move on and stop. And there's one unfortunate moment right at the very end of the conversation. I kind of gave him a chance to wrap up, and that was the only time he talked about women in bathrooms. And I'm like, we're done. I could talk for another hour now, but we were done because I think I'd spent 90 minutes with him. I needed to go and have a shower afterwards to make sure I was okay. But I did want to explain a bit more about who he is to you, and maybe sort of the reasons he's been kicked off Twitter. I did want to play you just a little bit. Now, it's important to know that 54 seconds into this conversation, Mr. Seager started talking about masks, unprompted, right? I didn't ask him about them, but 54 seconds into the conversation, without prompting, he started talking about the ridiculous nature of masks. This is now 12 and a half minutes in. We're still in that theme. And I'll just play you a couple of minutes. Actually, how long is it? It doesn't matter. It's a couple of minutes, and you'll get to meet a little bit more about Mr. Seager. And as Maya Angelou said, he will tell you who he is.
On your own treatment, and I consider masks to be a treatment. And it also
not. Masks aren't a treatment. By definition, they're not.
Well, I've looked at rights, and I haven't looked at it for about a year or so, but I think it's quite clear that it gives everybody, every single person in New Zealand, the right not to wear a mask.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
I realise that I've looked. I don't want to get stuck on this topic, to be honest with you. I think there's more important topics to talk about
with respect, with respect,
yeah,
you actually brought this up twice so far. I haven't even asked you about it. Start your cafe, and then you brought up masks and going to a debate. I haven't even asked you about this. You've started this conversation, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just part of a conversation. It was relevant to the conversation at the time. I mean, you've asked me about which places I went to in St. Clair, and I told you why that I chose these places. I mean, it's just an interest, that's all.
Yeah, but as I said to you, I want to know who you are. So now I'm interested about this from this aspect of, should something happen if you were mayor, and should something happen that requires some kind of working with a government agency, should something happen with COVID or whatever, and I'm not even getting into debate with you about truth, not truth. I know you've got writing that you say you don't even believe in viruses, but I want to know as a mayor what kind of person you'd be to make those decisions if you had to work with the Ministry of Health as a mayor on an issue that involved viruses, when you've written on one of your blogs you don't believe in viruses.
Actually, I think because Robin Bloomfield is trained by the military.
Did you get that? Ashley Bloomfield is trained by the military. Hang on, I'll just finish this bit.
I'm not actually working with the Ministry of Health. I'm probably working with the Ministry of Military
Defence as a word.
That topic. And Jim O'Malley's on record as saying that you need to push back against the central government on the free waters issue. I think the central government needs a lot of pushback right now.
So because what I want to do is be fair to you, and I want to be fair to the people listening and watching. So people know what I've just referenced. This is from your one of your websites, your campaigns. I think from the 2019 seagerformayor.co.nz, and you say, just so people know that what I've just referenced, you're saying the first line of your bio, again, you offering this information against vaccines, against mandates, no belief in viruses. There you go. So I'm quite enjoying. I feel like I can just take my own hat off. Can't quite reach. So you open up the door and you allow someone to tell you who they are. And once they tell you who they are, some of them then get banned off Twitter not long after, because they've spent all that time telling you who they are and everybody else via various tweets.
So, I mean, the thing is, he is incredibly abusive to his critics. He holds himself up as a feminist, but he is incredibly misogynistic when he deals with women that are talking about trans issues and that sort of thing. these sort of interviews that you've done are so important, because if he was, dare I say, smarter, he would just talk about something that he's quite passionate about and that he's actually correct about, cycleways and climate change. And that would get a big tick from me. And that's all you see in the paper. And that if you don't dig too hard, if you just look at the blurbs, you don't go to his website, you don't listen to anything long form like his blog or anything. If you were just real casual about researching it, you go, I like cycleways, I think climate change is an issue, big tick. And then what you're actually voting for is just someone that is vile. So it's really important that that's what we're doing, is that we're letting these people talk and, like, you know, really tell us who you are. And we go, oh, that's right, you're a fucking demon. Also, in that interview, he specifically told you that he wasn't part of Voices for Freedom. And that was a fucking lie.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So one of the guys that I follow on Twitter that does a really deep dive into these guys found out that he's a paid up member. So he was definitely playing to that tactic that they're going of run for council, don't mention anything about Voices for Freedom. But even that, he couldn't dial that down enough to go, I want to be mayor because I believe in cycleways and I believe that climate change is a real problem.
Yeah. When I also talked to Dudley about that, who showed one of his tweets earlier, and the thing I said to Dudley is it's not actually relevant. It doesn't matter if he's part of Voices for Fuckwits or not, because it's all, I mean, he doesn't believe in viruses. So whether he's a part of them or not, we know where he stands. Like I actually said to him in the interview, I sort of appreciate you just being so straight up, because the problem is it's the people who are nefarious and have these beliefs but refuse to admit them. But he doesn't have a problem with that, because 54 seconds in, he chose to start talking about it without any prompting whatsoever. So whether he is or he isn't, whether it doesn't matter, because we know where he stands. He's told us who he is, and as what's her name, Maya Angelou tells us, when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. And so we did.
That's the whole thing. Like, if you're running for office and it's a democracy and that sort of thing, tell us what you really stand for, and you'll find out what the rest of us think about it. But yeah, if you're going to be devious and say, well, no, I don't, we're just lucky with Richard there that he thinks so much of himself that he thinks he can get away with going, well, no, I'm not part of Voices for Freedom, I just happen to agree with everything that they say.
Yeah, what did he say? He said he wouldn't go on the Kelvin Alps counterspin. They're a bit too far right for me, but he'd contacted Voices for Victory and he said he'd come on their platform because he respects their audience. It's a bit. So in other words, it's a bit like Sean Plunkett.
Yeah, absolutely.
He respects their audience. That's about all.
Oh, Jesus.
Are you going to be able to sleep tonight, my friend?
Knowing that Richard Seager is still out there on it, and he's probably on a bicycle, so he could sneak up on you.
Do you know what's interesting? How I don't know if you use the word vicious, but you said he's been vicious to his critics. I haven't heard a peep from him. I wonder why that is.
Oh, look, it's because is it because you're a man? Is it because that you actually live in the same city as him?
Is it also on some levels, and I'm not saying I'm a violent person, but I'm 150 kilos and 6'4". Does that have anything to do with it? I wonder.
Have you ever made a man eat his own bicycle seat? Because you could.
Like, it's really interesting. You would just say same city. I've had a lot of maybe that's one. I mean, I got to be real careful saying this because I can't, and I won't say that I understand what it feels like to get abuse like the trans community does. But when I was walking at Newstalk ZB, I had death threats. I had, at that stage, it was Trade Me forums written about me. I had letters turn up to my house saying, see how easy it is to find where you live. So I've experienced a little bit of it. And really being honestly, I've never felt unsafe. And one of the reasons is, no, I'm sure I could feel unsafe, but one of the reasons to this point I haven't felt unsafe is my physical prowess, my physical stature is one of the reasons I haven't felt unsafe. So I know and look, this will be a great time to start talking about privilege. What is privilege? And I think privilege is something that you have that you haven't earned and don't deserve, right? So my feelings of safety, although, you know, this here, I've kind of earned that over 40 years, but my physical stature is not something I've earned or don't deserve, but there is a privilege which comes with it. And that's a privilege of an amount of safety. I can look particularly scary if I want to, right? When I put my hood up and I have dark glasses on, like we used to have students living up behind us. And if it was 1 in the morning and it was just going on too much, I would walk to their back door and knock on it with my hood up and my cap on. And I can look a certain way should I want to. I don't. And you people who know me know I'm a wimp and I'm a lovable kind of chap there, Chewy. But I know that that's a privilege I have that I haven't earned. I don't deserve. It's just genetics. So there's nothing about it that I've done any work for. You don't do work to get height. You know, you don't do work to get at least certainly your broadness of your bones and stuff. Right? If you've got muscles or if you do work for that, but actually, that's how I always consider privilege, something that you don't deserve and you haven't earned, and that's something for me that I kind of acknowledge. And so I don't know what it's like to be in the most vulnerable community. Obviously, I'm white. I grew up middle class. I'm heterosexual. You know, I've been married with children. I tick all those boxes as being a fucking normie, sliding through society. But I've experienced a smidge amount of that idea of, you know, death threats and threats of violence and stuff. But it's something that I'm wanting to understand more. And for that whole world, the whole world of vulnerable people who are experiencing those, I want to understand more because I can empathize and get big feels for you, but I can't really understand, because I haven't walked a mile in your shoes.
But you can have someone's back, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's the whole thing. When, you know, it's really easy to say, hey, look, I have the privilege that I have. I don't have to deal with anything. I can just tag out of this whole thing because it literally does not concern me. But I think there's a real power in sticking up your hand and going, no, this isn't cool. No, it doesn't affect me, but I won't stand for it. Yeah. And I think more and more people are doing that for vulnerable groups. You know, you don't have to be Māori to speak on Māori issues. You in support of them and that sort of thing. And it's the same with gay people. It's the same with the trans community. It's the same with all of these vulnerable groups. As they would never get the traction that they need unless people that aren't actually in that group don't stand up and go, no, I stand with these people. So Richard Seager can get in the fucking sea. And it's just weird. They just focus on genitals and they talk about them really weird. And it's just obsessive. They're strange. I just don't get it.
Just a little note here for Neon. Neon says it's a shame you aren't having Pamela on. You know what? That's the last weekend. Pamela's on. We've got her in the last weekend. Yeah. She in the BHN. We call that BHN Dunedin just because it's a special. Should we share with people? I could share with them. I could show them. Do they see? Look,
absolutely share it. See? I mean, we've talked about Richard.
We could do that. BHN Dunedin. See, that's the Dunedin page. So
I mean, what we're doing there is for the local audience, but I mean it's a microcosm of what's happening in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
It's actually find out about your people that are running for office. One that I saw today was that in the Upper Hutt mayoral race or council race, they have a literal Nazi. They have a literal Nazi, someone that is part of the leadership of Action Zealandia running for council. And on one hand, it's incredibly funny because he's done his hair to look just like Hitler. I don't know if that's on purpose, but he's got.
I saw that. I almost was trying to figure out if he had a little thing as well, but I think it was just shadow under his nose. I know what you're talking about.
It looked exactly. I'm going to find it. Can I find it? I don't know.
Yeah. While you're doing that, thanks, Kate. Yeah. Didn't need to do that, mate. We appreciate that little super chat there from Caitlin as well, and hopefully we'll talk to you over the weekend. Yeah, look, I'm just, you know, it's that idea of let people, I'm happy to converse with people who have contrary opinions, even abhorrent opinions, because I think it's important for us to know who they are and normally people will tell us, and that's what we're doing. Are you finding something for us there, Chewy?
Oh, I've liked too many things today. But yeah, it was literally someone saying that he looked like a Vienna School of Fine Arts dropout. And I just thought that was such a good burn, rather than just saying that he looked like Hitler. But yeah, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's been an interesting show. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. I don't want to talk about Patreon right now. I think I'm not going to try and sell it off the back of that interesting conversation. We've done enough. We've done that. Is there anything else you want to cover off on tonight? Look, I think the other thing about the Richard Seagers of the world is last time he ran, he got 0.73% of the votes. You know, he got something like 320 votes. Dunedin's got 130,000 people. So maybe there's a case to be said that maybe I shouldn't be talking to these kinds of people. I get that, but no, I'm not saying you platform everybody, but because I am someone who tends, if I'm going to err one way or the other, I tend to err towards more speech rather than less. Tend to, not always, not an absolute rule in my world. And yeah, if talking to people can get them to reveal who they are, then I think that's a net positive. And I think that's, I mean, the funny thing about the interview with him is I did it 2 weekends ago and it got a new life this week. People started sharing it around. And one of the nicest compliments I had actually was there was someone not connected to us, not connected to me, shared something, you know, like 3 steps away, saying, you know, I wish there was more interviews going on with the council people. So, you know, Pat Britton could let us know who they were. And I was like, oh, that's really lovely. It's a nice tweet, because that's sort of what it's about. Just having chats.
I found the video of the guy. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but
yeah.
Just so we can have a look at the Vienna School of Fine Arts haircut here.
Oh, geez, it's a.
I'm sure that almost did look like he had the moustache as well.
Hi, I'm Jordan Milburn. I'm standing for council. So I'm an upper heart local.
It's not good camera work. Come on, camera.
The one Isla who's 17 months.
Yeah, what I mean, look, it does actually look like a moustache.
That shadow is,
it's shadow.
Young people in upper height, especially people who are sort of under 35, were not represented well on the council. And I felt
Listen to his reasoning.
We need a council that really represents everybody. At the moment, it's been quite stagnant for many years, with a lot of people who have been on it just continually over and over again. And I feel like I can bring new energy, a new voice, a new charisma, something to
charisma.
To revitalize the city. And
I have charisma. Okay, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Beautiful.
So yeah, that is literally part of the leadership of Action Zealandia, so a literal neo-Nazi group, and he's saying all the right buzzwords, and he's of course not going to bring that up in a debate for council.
Come here.
I'm already here, Pat.
No, because people keep asking me, come here.
Oh,
she hasn't been around for a while because the kids have been in. Come here, up, come on. Oh, there's my big girl. Come on, up, come here. She's all sleepy. She's all sleepy.
It's a papa.
Do you know what we just did? It sounds a bit crazy, but we down at Animates, down by the down by the go back to your bed. Good girl. She's like, oh, she's caught up on my headphones. She's caught up on my headphones. All right, step over them. That was my fault. She'll go past and she'll knock the camera over. Animates down by the Oval. Get on your mat. Good girl. Get on your mat. Get on your mat. $99, unlimited dog washes.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's not bad, because we wash her once every 2 weeks. It costs $10 a pop. That's $260 for a year. So we've been washing her every week, and she smells great. Much easier to have sitting next to you on the couch if she smells like I don't know, starbursts and sunshine. Is that right? All right, it's come to the silly hour, I think. So it's time for us to get out of here. Hey, thank you for joining us tonight.
You've reminded me of one thing, so I want to leave people with this.
Go.
You talk about washing your dog. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel, The Girl with All the Dogs?
I am not.
She's a dog groomer, and she videos all her dog grooming, and it is the most relaxing TV I have ever seen. It is so good.
I don't know if that, I mean, maybe I am, because there is one that I watch as well, and she's got a lovely voice, and she talks about their big grinchy feet. and cut their big grinchy feet.
Oh no, that's her.
Oh, that's
That's
her.
her.
Okay, yes.
That's
so I
her.
didn't know. I
Yep.
didn't know the name of it, but she pops up in my algorithm, so I know who you. I know who you mean.
No, she's great.
How about that? How about that?
So there you go. There's that one, and then there's the for my relaxation channels. There's that and the hydraulic press channel with the guy from Finland.
Do you know what I got into the other a couple of
Satisfying.
times? You know how you get algorithms and they go crazy for a while. I had one that was airsoft, and I could sit there and watch an hour of airsoft. This I think he's German. This German guy
I've
who's
seen that
doing it,
channel as
and
well.
he's the sniper.
Yeah,
and it's just and wearing ghillie suits and hiding 4 meters away from people and shooting them and stuff. And it might not be the best thing to think, but you know, it's airsoft, so we'll stick with it. Yeah, it's funny the algorithms you go down. We should do like a find all our algorithms in YouTube and do that one night. Just share.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Share and get other people to share theirs as well.
See how niche my YouTube gets.
Yeah. I'm always worried that every time I show a clip, because sometimes the down the side of it is all the things you've been watching. I'm always wondering, gosh, what's going to pop up in there? What are people going to see? No. Oh well. And I'm a little bit anal about mine. I don't let the kids get on my YouTube, or else it's full of freaking ridiculous things. So they have to they put their own accounts in when they're using the. We got it on the TV.
Claire can't be bothered to sign into her own YouTube account, so I have a whole lot of graffiti stuff on mine. So that's fun, but I enjoy watching those as well.
All right, we're leaving, by the way. Stop talking to me. All right, we'll catch you tomorrow night from 10 p.m. team. Look, one other thing, Chantel Baker, still waiting. Talked to her on the phone, said yes, texted her directly, so it's gone to her phone, heard nothing back.
I would not put money on getting an answer from her.
Well, you know, she put up a thing the other day talking about people running away from her. All she wants to do is talk to them. Like, all I want to do is talk.
All talk, no trousers.
But all I want to do is talk, and hopefully no one will run away from me, because, you know, that's an accusation that Chantel's made towards other people, that they run away from her. And look, you know, I'm a lovely chap, aren't I, Chewy?
Yes.
See you tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us. Hooray. Bye-bye.